Hey guys, this is my 2018 Tundra in a double cab with a 2.5-inch lift, or a 3-inch lift as most people would call it. I have 35s on there and a pretty decent offset. I wanted to do a little update for you guys because on the last walk around video I talked about just recently getting the suspension. So I have the brand new Dirtking 2.5. There are two different options. There's a 2.0 and a 2.5. I went with the 2.5 to get the remote reservoirs and just get a little bit better of an off-road suspension. The 2.0s are a little bit cheaper, but I just prefer the 2.5s. So a lot of people are asking me why I took a risk on the suspension when it was absolutely brand new. And really the reason for me is because I understand the development that went into this. I have heard so many great things about their upper control arms that they've been doing for years. And I will say those upper control arms are holding up as great as I had heard. So I was definitely willing to take a chance on the front and the rear suspension. So a little backstory on Dirtking: they have been making suspension components for about 20 years now. I think just recently in the last 2 years, they decided to kind of work together with another company in developing a great suspension for the Tundra, for the 4Runner, the Tacoma, and I believe there's some other ones, but off the top of my head, that's all I can remember. But they developed all of these and released them earlier this spring. And so far, everyone I know that's running them on the Tacoma and Tundra and the 4Runner have all really been happy. So I've run a bunch of suspensions on both this Tundra and my old 4Runner, and so far, this is the best suspension that I've ever run. Now, it is a little bit more expensive than what I've run before, so that kind of does track. Say in total, it's maybe about 20% more than previous suspensions that I've had. But if I had to put a number on it, the performance that I get with the 20% more I spent is probably about 175% of what those other suspensions can do. Specifically on this Tundra, I've had two suspensions. On my 4Runner, I think I had 4 different suspension kits. I've had Icon, I had Bilsteins on this one, I've had Bilsteins on my 4Runner, you know, a couple other components, different upper control arms. So I've had this whole setup here for about 8,000, almost 9,000 miles. And I have put a lot of that on in a very short amount of time. I believe I got this back in February or March. It is now August, so I have put a lot of miles on this. Highway miles, off-road miles, and city driving a lot. This is my daily driver, so I do a lot of city miles, picking up food, going to the grocery store, doing all that. And then in terms of highway miles, I just did a really long, about 3,000 miles going out to Expo West, which is out in Flagstaff, Arizona. I did that coming from Denver. I hit all of like Escalante, and I hit a lot of spots on the highway. And then off-road driving, I pretty much do that for a living now. So I've had quite a bit of experience doing that. Each of these categories, it has performed beyond what I thought it was going to do. Before this, I had really only had one like super high quality lift, and that was the Icon lift. I think it was a stage 4 on that one. That was on my 4Runner. Other than that, I've had, you know, sort of more of the budget range. So it was really important to me to not only get that increased height to run 35s, but it was important to me have a really good ride. I've already said this is a great ride, so that's not an issue, but it does give you enough space to run 35s with a decent offset. It is a 0 offset on this one. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, but on the Tundra, a 0 offset is probably somewhere around like a -35, a -30 in a 4Runner or a Tacoma. So decent offset, decent sized tires, and a lot of poke, and I'm able to run these and not even worry about it. Now, I probably could run 37s on this. Maybe that would look a little more balanced on the truck, but for me, I really didn't want to lose a lot of that highway functionality, that miles per gallon, so 35s were a really good start. Although I do believe I could go 37s on this without an issue. You could probably go up to 35s on a 4Runner or a Tacoma, and possibly more, although you're gonna run into a lot of cutting issues. Super easy, just push the bumper forward a little bit. There is a full bumper, an off-road bumper coming very soon. And then I did a body mount chop, which I always do as a kind of just a precautionary thing. And at that point, I just removed a little bit of plastic, a little bit of heat gun to the plastic. Up in the front, we have the remote reservoir. This is better for many reasons, but you can make that decision for yourself if you want to go with the 2.5 or the 2.0. I wanted the remote reservoir, so I went with the 2.5. So this is the body right there. It does have a really cool gold color to it, which I do like up against the tan. This would also really go great with black. On the top, we have the ball joint upper control arm. There also is a uniball upper control arm. That one is a little bit more expensive. This is the one I went with because pretty much everyone I knew that was running Dirtking was running that one, and it just seemed like it was a pretty good bang for the buck. So this is the amount of poke on the front. I've had no issues with all of that sticking out. Typically, a stock one is going to be somewhere like this, somewhere right there. So we've got a ton of tire sticking out on the front and a ton of tire sticking out on the back. Like I said, probably somewhere right like that inside the wheel well. So this all poking out doesn't cause an issue. So if you get a lower end suspension or just like a puck lift, a body lift, you're probably not gonna be able to run this offset. So just know that going into it. You can also see the components back here. This again is the 2.5. This one also does have the remote reservoir. So I've got remote resis in the back as well as the front. So because this is a truck, typically the back is going to sit higher from the factory than the front. You get that rake on the truck because you want to be able to put weight in the back without it sagging, doing that, Carolina squat. So in the back, I believe you only need about 1 to 1.5 inches of additional lift to actually fit the 35s. So I believe from factory, this is an additional 1.5 inches of lift. Then on the front, this is 2.5. But if you look here, you can see that I have plenty of play if I want to get a little bit more, which I do think I would like a slight bit more lift on the front. The higher you push this though, the less good the ride is going to be. So just know that going into it. But all of that to get more lift or less lift depending on your ride setup. And like I said, I just removed this plastic. I have the body mount chop right there from running for tacos. And there is no issues running these 35s, which are much larger than factory. I have no issues with those, even with all that poke. So I do think this is a really nice setup. I do want to follow up probably at the end of the year. I don't know, about 8,000 miles. So probably what a lot of people would put on their off-road trucks in a year. I just happen to do it in a matter of months. So guys, any questions, let me know below. I'll drop a link below to all of the suspension components, as well as the components I didn't pick from Dirtking. And I'll drop an article that I wrote on this, as well as the install article. I have 2 articles, one that is essentially about what I'm saying in this video. The other one is the install. So if you are interested, you can check out that install. That is just going to be for the Tundra. So I will drop the install for the Tacoma and the 4Runner on Trail 4R and Trail Tacoma. That being said, as this rain starts to really come down, that is my cue to leave. So I will see you guys in the next video.